There are a few phases in construction that make all the hard work seem worth it. In my opinion, the three that matter the most are your exterior finish, because you get to watch the house go from just a rough frame to whatever exterior finish you're going with, whether that be stucco or siding. Your kitchen cabinetry is important as well, because you finally get to watch what most people consider the best part of the house get put together. And then the last but not least is the flooring. The flooring will make any place pop, and that's how you know you're getting close to completion. Today I want to talk with you guys about one of those things, and that is exterior siding, specifically board and batten. The project that I'm at today is the duplex project. It's a project I've been working on since the beginning of 2021. We have been here since the first shovel went into the ground, and we are here just about until final finishes. If you want to check out that, link is in the description down below. Full playlist documented from foundation being poured all the way up to rough framing and now siding. Today we're going to talk about properly installing this siding here. This James Hardie board and batten siding, because a lot of people put this stuff up, a lot of people do it incorrectly. We're going to go over 5 things that I think are key when it comes to installing this product. So before we dive into the 5 things that I think are key when it comes to installing this product, I want to talk to you guys about the product, because I know a lot of you have been curious as to what we're using. This is a James Hardie panel, 4x8, 4x9, and 4x10 is what they come in. This is for doing our board and batten. Some people still think that you install 1x12 or 1x16 strips going up and then batten over those. That's how it was done back in the good old day. Things are a little bit different now. These are 4 foot wide, 8 foot tall, all the way up to 10 foot tall panels that we're using. Cedar mill, so they do have a little bit of grain to them, which is nice, gives it some detail. Majority of projects we do though want that cedar mill, that texture on there, because it does give it a good look. One thing I don't like about this product is it is fiber cement, therefore it's terrible to cut, terrible to breathe in, and it can break. But once it's on the wall, you're pretty much rock solid. So that's what we're using for wall panels. Let's go over our trim. Here we've got 1x2 trim. We're using these for all of our bats behind me here. We're using 1x4 trim around all of our windows and around our corners. James Hardie does have a lineup of the trim and the bats, but personally I don't enjoy working with that fiber cement, so I try to avoid it at all costs. This stuff here is great. You have to prime both ends of your cuts, but that's a pretty common thing. We treat it the same exact way. We put the panels up and we bat over it with these guys instead of the fiber cement bats. Everything comes out great, and we've been doing it this way for quite some time. Let's go over those 5 things now. So number 1, the most important thing in my opinion when it comes to doing this board and batten siding is your layout. Why is it the most important? Well, because it's a cosmetic thing. This is the first thing that people are going to see. If you're on a single level home, it's a little bit harder to mess up, but it's still possible. So all of our bats are going to be laid out at 16 or 24 on center, and it depends on the project. On this home, everything's 16 on center, so if you were to hook this bat here and pull to this one and so on and so forth all the way down, everything's going to be on a 16, 32, 48 layout. Every sheet should be cut at 16, 32, or 48. Until you get to the corners, you might have some special pieces on the ends. That's not going to matter so much. The most common mistake to see is that layout. Because if this bat to this bat is 16 and this bat to this bat's 12, it's going to be way over here. You're going to see that difference in size. And for those of you that might be really new to board and batten, the goal is to have 2 sheets meet up. One here, one butting into it, and you have this batten right here that covers it up. Back in the day, this was commonly done with 1x12 pieces, and they would have a little 1x2, 1x3 covering it on the outside. They didn't have 4x8 panels back then. So my best advice is if you can establish the one sheet, whatever it may be, wherever it may be, start there and work your way out. And make sure all your pieces are either 16, 32, or 48 inches. When it comes to layout though, it's much more than just making sure your bats are 16, 32, and 48 all the way down. Let's go out to the garage. Steven and Fox are working out there right now. I want to show you guys how important it is to line up your bats centered, as opposed to just hooking one end and running with them.
Yeah, if you're an amateur. Bugatti, saw winds over where? 1 foot went up 6 inches. Listen to me now. So I'm going up top.
It's kind of tough to see up there, but the bats are centered perfectly on that wall, meaning at the very, very peak of the roof, there's 2 bats split perfectly on both sides. This is the best thing you could possibly do for aesthetics because it looks great. If they're off-centered or you have different sized gaps in between your bats, that is the first thing that catches people's eye. That's why my biggest suggestion and number 1 on this list of 5 is making sure your bat layout is proper. Whether you're laying out 16 or you're laying out 24 on center, take your time and make it clean. So we've gone over layout. Number 2 is flashing, and it's a very important step as well because this is what's going to protect your home from water getting on the inside. All of the flashing we're going to use on this project for the board and batten siding are all very similar, they just vary in sizes. So let's run through that real quick, talk about what flashing we use, what it's for, and show you how it works. So a Z-bar flashing looks just like a Z, goes out over the siding below, back and under the siding above, and ties to the wall. So once we run out a wall full of sheets, we'll go back through, put on this Z-bar on top, nail it into the wall, and then tape it all the way across. So you'd run out all your bottom sheets first, install this Z-bar, then drop on the top sheets. What this is gonna do is create a defense for water in here. Water's not gonna be able to creep down in between the 2 sheets because if it does, it's sitting on this metal here. The goal for the Z-bar is to allow water to come down, and if it does get behind, it comes out over the tape and out over the flashing onto the face where it can dry. You'll notice nothing's behind it. Completely dry. So everything came down out over the face of that Z-bar and over the sheets. So that's a big step as well. You want to make sure that you have your Z-bar flashing on top of your first row of sheets if you have a continuation going up. I want to take you guys through a few spots and show you just where this flashing gets used to where you understand above all windows and all doors Z-bar flashing gets put before the sheets go on. You can see it from right up here and all the way back just on top of that window. That's going to help deter any water out and over the window instead of letting it sit back in there. This window is now ready to trim out all the way around. You can see the Z-bar breaking up those 2 sheets right there. Our sheets weren't long enough to reach all the way to the top. We had a break there. You don't ever want to join those 2 together and caulk them. You want to Z-bar that and continue running up. So we've got the flashing running from the wall out and over the belly band that we have. And then under here where our belly band sits, we have Z-bar going up and over the sheathing. So if water comes down here, it's going to come out and over. And there's no way that it can get back in there. My best advice to you guys is to always think like water. Water will find its way in wherever it can. You should be running flashing on top of all of your doors, all of your windows, all of your belly bands, breaks in your sheets, anywhere you think is right. The little example we did earlier showing you that Z-bar up on the wall, there was no water that got behind that sheet. If you just had 2 sheets stacked on top of each other, water would get right back in there and wreak havoc. Z-bar is a very cheap product. It's not going to up the price of your lumber ticket all that much. Over your windows, over your doors, top of your sheets, top of your belly bands, make it work. Water management is big. So on every single sheet we put up on the building, we're going to snap a line from bottom to top vertically at 16 inches and at 32 inches. The reason we snap these lines at 16 and 32 is because that's where our bats are centered up at. If we were to nail in here or nail over here, a bat's not going to cover it. We would have exposed nails. If we nail on this red line, we have a bat covering it and a bat covering it. So these red lines from bottom to top let us know where we're able to nail. If we nail anywhere else other than those red lines, it's going to be exposed and it's not going to be covered. Let's talk about that 24 though. What does it mean? So now you can see this line snapped horizontally all the way through at 24 inches. We're 24 inches to that red line. That red line is what I like to call a control line. That's what's going to control our sheets all the way around the building. It's pretty much our go-to reference. If you have a pipe down here, you're going to pull off the control line down. Here's where that control line goes though. So when it comes time to putting siding up on a wall, you want to make sure that your siding hangs down past the plate to foundation connection an inch. That's going to cover up that foundation to sill plate connection. We go through with Huberwood's liquid flashing before we do any siding and liquid flash from the foundation up onto the wall a good inch or two all the way through. This is an alternative to using a thin sheet metal all the way around. But that siding, we want it to hang down an inch past our shear panel. So we snap out 24 inches up onto our sheet horizontally all the way across. And then on our wall itself, before we put up any sheets, we go through around the whole entire building and snap up 23 inches all the way around horizontally. What this is going to do is give us two lines with an inch difference. When it comes time to putting up that siding, all we have to do is lift that sheet up and match the two control lines, and we know there's an inch difference, and that inch difference is going to be our overhang on the bottom there. It's a super easy way to do it. Keep your sheets laser straight across the top, and it works for us. So we snap out 16, 32 vertical, we snap 24 horizontal, and we snap 23 on the wall. That leaves us with that 1 inch difference that hangs down and gives us perfect siding install. We'll pan around real quick. You guys can see all the 24 lines we have snapped. So one big reason I like to use that control line is because we're able to pull down to any penetrations we've got. We can pull down 21 inches. It's real quick to get the number there, and it's real easy to reference on a sheet when everything's off that 24 horizontal. Number 4, I want to talk to you guys about fasteners and what guns we use real quick. We use the same guns on every single one of these projects. It's no different. But I've had quite a few people reach out and say that they're using framing nailers to put on all of the panels. It's simply not the way to do it. For attaching the panels to the walls, we're using the 𝑁𝑉65AH from Hitachi. This is a siding coil nailer, and the nails that we're using are 1 3/4. These little guys right here. You can see the rings on them. They are a ring shank nail. They do not pull out very easy. They are pretty tough. So that 1 3/4 right there is going to hold that sheet on like crazy. This gun right here is great, fully adjustable as far as your depth goes. Very rarely do these things jam up on us, so that is why they are my go-to. I have tried a couple other different companies and haven't been too pleased. This right here is our go-to. We've got a couple of them on site. And depending on what we're installing, if we're installing trim around a window, oftentimes I'll use that same siding nailer. But if I want to conceal and hide those nails a little bit, what I'll use is a finish nailer here. This is the NT65MA2 from Hitachi. A lot of these guns are now rebranded as Metabo HPT, so you will have to cross-reference the numbers. Links to both these guns and the hardware we're using is in the description down below. I do want to show you guys the difference between a finish nail and a siding nail when it's in these bats. It is a pretty big noticeable difference. So try out both of them, check out the comparison I'm about to show you guys. One is very small and one is a bit bigger. So number 5 is going to wrap up our 5 tips for installing this stuff, and that comes down to safety. Many of you guys know asbestos siding was a thing. It wasn't until later on that we figured out it was super harmful and wasn't good to breathe in. I love James Hardie's product. It's a great product to install, but I absolutely hate what it's made of. Cutting the fiber cement products themselves aren't so bad, it's breathing in that dust. If you cut James Hardie's product for the whole day without a respirator, the next day you're going to be feeling it. So only cut this stuff if you have a respirator on, you have eye protection on, you're outdoors, or you have a vacuum hooked up to it. Stay as safe as you can, respirator at all times when you're cutting it, eye protection, and a vacuum if you've got it. If you guys have any questions related to the James Hardie siding, drop them in the comments down below. We've got some point of view action installing this stuff coming out here pretty quick as well. Stay tuned. My name is Matt Pinello with Matt Bangs Wood. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Hang on.